Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our podcast, RAMP, Real Access Motivates Progress. It has been a week since I have seen you last, and we have a great show ahead of you for tonight. I just wanted to mention that today is the 1-year anniversary to my 2 debilitating strokes, so I want you all to stay positive and let you know that anything is possible and you can come over just about anything. So let me introduce our guests tonight. We have Oakley's Home Access with us tonight. We are talking accessibility and inclusion. And we have Justin Oakley and Alex Denoncourt, and I probably messed that up, so we will have him fix it if I did. So welcome, gentlemen, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, great. We'll start off with you, Justin. Tell us a little bit about you and tell us a little bit about Oakley's.
All right, will do. So, like you said, my name is Justin Oakley. I am an occupational therapist. I've been practicing occupational therapy since 2013. I got my master's degree from University of Southern California, and it was just an incredible experience learning all about, all the different settings involved in occupational therapy. And the first job that I had in OT was at a skilled nursing facility. So our job there was to collaborate with all the different disciplines that work there in order to get folks home. We were really passionate about getting them conditioned, getting them stronger, and rehabbing them in all ways. Getting them home was always the goal. We would oftentimes provide the home assessment, the home evaluation, where we'd bring the individual to the home where they would be returning, where we were planning discharge, and we would go room by room and make so many recommendations. All these reports about where they need modifications, whether it be grab bars, handrails, ramps, oftentimes stair lifts. And then at the end of it all, we'd hand them pretty reports and we'd say, you should get all this done. And we'd continue the discharge process. After a while of doing this, I went to my social service director and I said, Christine, what happens to all these pretty reports after we hand them off and send the folks home? And her answer resonated with me, and it sent chills down my body, and it's why I'm here today. And she said, well, we kind of hope they have someone handy in their family. And I just, a bell went off. It seemed like such a disservice to be giving all this information and then saying, well, good luck. So I decided to do something about it. And I reached out to a longtime friend of mine. His name is Michael Vieira. He's my now partner after 6 years of the company. And I said, there's a big need in the community. He's a construction expert. He'd been building houses and renovating houses for years at that point. And we kind of joke now that he'd been training for this business his whole life, not knowing about it. And I told him with our, skills and expertise combined, we could really make a difference in the community and help a lot of people. So we went for it. It started with a single grab bar in the shower. That was our main concern. And we've evolved to everything you can imagine for aging in place. We have an incredible team. One of our first hires was Alex here. He's an occupational therapist. He was my student, a fieldwork student, and he just really embraced the company, and we loved having him. He'll tell you a little more about his role here. But now we're a team of 13 full-time staff members here in the OHA family. We have a location here in Narragansett, Rhode Island, and also Walpole, Massachusetts, where Alex primarily works out of. So it's all about with us. It's all about relationships with healthcare providers, helping folks get the equipment they need to return home. Aging in place, fall prevention, and increasing accessibility are our core values. That really everything we do is based around those core values.
That's incredible. And everybody who knows me for half a second knows usually I talk about myself, and then the next thing I say is, did you call Justin yet from Oakley's? Because they're the next words out of my mouth 90% of the time. So I thank you for everything that you do. But Alex, let's hear a little bit about you and how you got involved in all of this.
Yeah, and you did perfectly fine with my name, Alex Denoncourt. I'm also an occupational therapist. And as Justin said, I was his student before coming on with the company. So my story begins in Connecticut. I got my bachelor's and master's from Quinnipiac University. And something that's really unique about Quinnipiac is we start OT classes from freshman year. You have one OT course every year, just to make sure that you are learning about the profession and that you are truly interested in it. Where a lot of other schools, you don't do that kind of thing until graduation years and in grad school. So when we were talking about, those first couple semesters, and they said, well, what kind of specialty right now, without knowing much about OT, do you want to go into? And I had already known about home modifications, but didn't really know the path as to how to do them. I knew that it was a subspecialty, but I didn't know where you get the contractors, where you do this. So she said, yep, that's a great idea. And I said, well, I'm pretty handy. If I was to get a contractor's license, could I also do the renovations after I did the evaluations or something like that? And she said, yeah, I don't do it that way, but you certainly could. Most of the time, OTs just get subcontractors. But then when you fast forward 5 years later, when we're going into our clinical rotations, I, pretty much just Googled occupational therapy and home modifications, and Oakley Home Access popped up in Rhode Island, which was crazy to me because I didn't think anybody was really doing this. Leave it to another OT to have the same idea. So I reached out to my professor who sets up the clinicals, and they usually have a basis of who they want to work with. They have contracts that they've worked with over the years, and it's not always easy to get into new places. But I said, please reach out to this company for me. And we're not supposed to reach out. It's supposed to be all the professors. We're very hands-off as students. So she reached out, and it was at a transition point where, and Justin will talk about this later, I'm sure, where he was pretty much moving the business out of his garage into the facility he's sitting in now, which is just amazing. It has every piece of equipment that we work with. So it was all very transitional for him and me. He was growing his business, and I was about to enter the field as an OT. And while I knew that I wanted to work with, home modifications in some sort, I wasn't really sure how to do it, what it truly was. So Justin and I spent 3 months together on every evaluation. My original plan was that I was going to travel all over the country doing travel OT. I wanted to go see other parts of the country, and started really loving what I was doing with Justin, and it was worth changing plans. And here we are pretty much 2 years later. So September was 2 years since I started my internship.
That's awesome. And that's really incredible. And like I said, I've been to the showroom and I have tried out every gadget that has been in the showroom. So I can attest that they have, and they actually even surprised, as much as I thought I knew about accessibility for actually using it, they actually shocked me with some of the stuff that they had that I didn't even know about. But let's get into the nitty gritty part, because I know the one thing that's on everybody's mind that has come up to me a lot. How do you start the process? Do they start contacting you? Do they contact somebody else? How does the whole process start? And when is the best time, not actual time, when is the best time to start this process? Justin?
So that's a great question. The time is as soon as you realize that there are any issues that you have, anything in your home that is difficult for you to do, that's the time to call us. Oftentimes, it's a healthcare provider that encourages an individual to call us. We distribute our RAC cards, thousands of them a month, to all sorts of healthcare providers and influencers like yourself. Generally, it starts with the healthcare provider handing the RAC card to either the loved one of the individual who will require our services, the individual themselves, maybe an adult child, depending on their age, and whomever makes the phone call. We like to make the process very simple. Whomever makes the phone call will get a hold of either Sydney or Destiny in our office. They can spend 2 minutes on the phone with us if they would like, giving us some basic information and a time that we can go to the home and visit. And they can be off the phone. They can have an appointment with us booked within 24 to 48 hours from that call, based on their convenience, and they can be on with their day, because a lot of times folks have a lot going on. That being said, More often than not, folks want to vent a little bit when they're on the phone. They generally have a lot going on. Our gals will spend 20, 25 minutes sometimes booking an evaluation because they can give us their medical history up until the moment that they picked up that phone if they'd like. We're here to listen, we're here to collaborate and help with the best solution. So it can be as simple as a 2-minute phone call to get on our schedule. Either Alex, if it's in Massachusetts, or myself or my partner Michael, if it's in Rhode Island, we'll go to the home. Again, if they need to be out of the home and they need one grab bar, we can be out in 20, 25 minutes. More often than not, it's an hour to 2 hours where we're offering to go through the entire home with the individual, up and down from every surface, accessing everywhere that could potentially be a problem area. We take note of every item that we discuss verbally. We write it all down. We use our iPads. I've newly evolved to the digital assessments. Very proud to say Alex has been doing it since the beginning. I finally evolved, effective this week. And at the end of that, say it's an hour, 2 hours, we're able to present them with an itemized list of everything we talked about, whether it's 4 grab bars, whether it's 3 stair lifts, a ramp, and grab bars in 3 different bathrooms. Could be one thing, could be 25 things. They have everything we talked about in a nice, simple, itemized list. We can help prioritize if needed. They have the exact cost of what it takes to install all of the equipment. Materials and labor is always included. It's never an estimate. It's always a nice, firm quote because we have everything so dialed in and itemized. At that point, the individual can book right then and there and be on the schedule within a few days or a week or so, depending on the project. We have 99% of our stuff in stock, so that's not a problem with scheduling. Any special order item, if it's a curved stair lift, which you're going to be involved with perhaps, you're looking at 4 to 6 weeks. We're there installing it in the home. I'd say 99.9% of our projects, the individuals are using that equipment the afternoon or evening of our install. We are able to do most of our work that same day, and we're off. We're able to provide a full training at the end of that. And remember, a lot of times this equipment we're installing, they've never heard about it before, never mind used it. So we're able to, for instance, a stair lift training. We'll have individuals ride the stair lift 20, 25 times before the technician will leave the home. So that individual feels 100% confident that they can use this equipment safely. That being said, we're always available for them to call and to reassess at any time if the situation changes. Any of the things that they didn't move forward with, we always have on file. We say to stow it away in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. If anything changes, we're here for them, and it's a streamlined process to return and do any more work. So it's a collaboration. A lot of times nowadays, individuals aren't able to be there. They're at the nursing homes, and the loved one isn't able to visit every day and work out in the gym with them like they usually would. So we're able to collaborate through email and phone calls and talk directly with the therapist to talk about how the individuals are doing to help guide us on the right equipment to recommend.
Yeah,
So we
and
try to
I
make it
think
as
it's so
simple as
great.
possible.
Yeah, I think it's so great what you do because a lot of the time after I've referred somebody to you guys, I always get the call back because I like the feedback, good or bad. I always like the feedback.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say it hasn't been anything bad. And people, one of the biggest compliments to you guys is how patient you are and how thorough you guys
Yep.
are and how it's no pressure. You guys do itemize it. You don't pressure anybody into it, and you tell them how to fix it so that it can be affordable to them so they can age in place and help them itemize so they know when they should do each project at it. Now, Alex, what is some of the like back and forth that you have with a customer that kind of sticks with you that other people should know, like some of the major questions people usually ask you while you're out on a site visit?
So a lot of times they may get some general recommendations, whether it be from a nurse, from a therapist. But the biggest question that people usually look me in the eye and they say, well, what else am I missing? And that's often after we go itemize the one thing that they called us for. If it's just a couple grab bars in the shower and they say, what else am I missing? Well, I say, oh, it's great that we just took care of the shower, but now I need to know, how are you getting into the house? What's your main route to get in this house? Is that the safest way to do it? Where are some of the times that you like, where are some of the places you like to spend most of your day? What are your leisure activities? These are strange questions to them because they may see us coming in as a contractor. But it's important for them to remember that we're not. We're there as therapists to know what their quality of life is, what is it that they enjoy doing, and how can we maximize their time at home. Ultimately, if they're not able to get up to the second floor where their art studio is, that's important to us. Even if they have one level living, but it's important for them to get to that second floor, we want to find a way for them to get out there. Or if they need to find a way to get out to the backyard where their raised flower beds are. These are all important things that we're making sure that we can address while we're there. And although they may be doing those things right now, like Justin said, we want to see every room so we can itemize it and we can store that in our computer. And if they call us back in a year or 2 years, it's as simple as dispatching the technicians because they already know what it is that they need, how much it'll cost. They could save up for it over a couple of years. So those are definitely important questions that we want to address. Otherwise, a lot of times they're worried about how fast it'll be done. I think there's a pretty common stigma where people are, see us coming in, they're like, great, we can do these things, but, my husband's coming home in 2 days. And we say, let me take a look at the schedule. That's not going to be a problem for us. We'll get you in there as soon as we can. Sometimes we have some clients who are more urgent than others. And, we're so in contact with our clients at all times that we know certain clients we could possibly move back a few days with their approval, where we may be able to move somebody up a little bit earlier, who is more critical, where they're getting discharged in 48 hours. We just want to always make sure we have a good stream of conversation with all of our clients and make sure they feel comfortable. You said, what was that? I'm sorry, Tina, I thought you were about to say something.
No.
Perfect. So like Justin said, we want everybody to feel comfortable. And I think the main thing that we like to drive home is that we're there to educate. And we're there just to give you your options. There's no pressure on anything. We're not salesmen. And I say it all the time, I'm a really bad salesman, but I'm a really good therapist as well. So that's what I'm here to do, is just to educate you on your options. And when I leave, my only hope is that you feel a little bit calmer, that now you know your options.
Yeah.
It's so true because it surprises me, and I don't know why at this point it still surprises me, of some of the things that come out of people's mouths who have never been around or in the disabled community. Like we have a wish list for a Habitat house, and somebody actually asked me, why do you need a sensory oriented trash can? Why don't you just use one with the foot pedal? Well, anybody that knows me for half a second knows that I have no movement or use of my legs. So what is a foot pedal gonna do for me? Like, it's the little things that you guys point out that people did not think about. Like, they're like, oh yeah, you need that kind of trash can. Well, maybe we need something like that, or you know what I mean? So it's the little things that you guys point out that is so important. Justin, I want to talk to you a little bit about funding. I know on the Governor's Commission there's a bill that we're trying to pass and to keep going, but talk to people about financing and funding some of these projects so they know how that step works.
Yeah, so I think that's a perfect segue, because I think next after what am I missing that Alex talked all about is, how am I going to pay for all this stuff? That's the next question that we get before we leave. So it's a great question. The first thing we ask is, what's your insurance? And the most common response is, well, Medicare, do they pay for it? And unfortunately, the answer is no. We'd need a much bigger shop. We'd need a much bigger warehouse if they did. We advocate all the time and discuss how Medicare would probably save billions of dollars each year if they did have a stipend for such equipment. However, at this time, they do not. What we do ask is if they do have state insurance, so neighborhood health plan, fee-for-service Medicaid, and United Community Plan, we're able to work with their healthcare provider and pursue authorization for our larger items, stair lifts, ramps, vertical platform lifts, and overhead lifts as well. We can get authorization, and it's no cost to the member. And it is usually about 2 weeks to a month authorization process that we're pursuing. But once we get that authorization, we're able to install it at no charge, and then we're able to claim the state directly. Now, most folks are not on state insurance. Most folks are on Medicare that we work with, and they're on a fixed income, and a lot of our stuff is difficult for them to afford. As you mentioned before, the Commissions on Disability, the Governor's Commission on Disability that you're a wonderful part of, has had a grant over the past 3 years that has been incredibly effective and successful at helping folks age in place at home safely and avoiding emergency room visits, hospital visits, and nursing home stays. It's the Rhode Island Livable Home Modification Grant, and they've funded over the last 3 years $500,000 each year, reimbursing 50% of all the equipment that we do, the cost of all the equipment that we do. So the individual would pay us 100% for the equipment. Say it's a $3,000 stair lift. If they were approved for the grant, they would receive in a few weeks 50% of that. So folks that needed the equipment, wanted the equipment, but were just on the verge of being able to afford it, it was now a no-brainer, and they were affording it, and they were purchasing their equipment. They were having peace of mind. Their children were having peace of mind, and it was a wildly successful program. With no other variables, Bob from the commission was going to go before the General Assembly and attempt to get $1 million, double it, because we would have used it. We would have used it before the end of the fiscal year. That's how wildly successful it was.
Yeah, we
and
have
how passionate
just
we
to-
were
to-
about
yeah.
guiding people.
Just to touch base on that, we
Yeah.
actually have a waiting list of people waiting for that funding
Yep.
to become available again, because it is so widely
Absolutely.
used and it's so
Yeah.
helpful to the community. So it is, but the problem is COVID hit, and then you can continue
You
on
got
with
it.
that.
Absolutely. So we would be able to streamline this process, and each week we'd be able to get approvals for individuals and get them on the schedule as soon as that next day we'd be able to install their equipment. Once COVID hit, as you said, they had to put a hold on the grant. It's in the budget. It's just not active right now. So as we know, we're working without a budget at this moment. It seems as though the General Assembly will vote on the budget or enact the budget in November. So in the meantime, we have been writing and calling, emailing, every way, shape, or form, contacting each of our local senators and representatives. They have a say in the budget. They talk to the right people. They can make a difference. We can make a difference. We need to strongly encourage the state to keep this program in the budget. They don't have to add anything to the budget. It's keeping it in the budget and not removing this invaluable program. The governor talks all about, rightly so, a move away from congregate settings, a push towards home care, living at home, aging in place. This grant fits right into that. It will keep people off of Medicaid, which when folks go on Medicaid, they're able to move into that nursing home. And then that is a need for a lot of individuals, but a $3,000 stair lift or a $2,000 ramp could be the difference from that nursing home residency and a far more expensive bill for the taxpayers. So even the fiscal, conservatives that are really looking at the bottom line, the dollars, this small part of the budget can save a lot of money, I think. And I would discuss that with anyone that says otherwise.
Yeah, I know that I'm in the
Yeah.
State House as much as I can, especially before COVID, and I am on the phone and in my email as much as I can because this program has got to stay. It is so important.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see their loved
Yeah.
ones into these programs. But besides that, after the half price, you guys do financing and budgeting for the other half, correct?
So yes, we're very unique in this industry where we often, because we are keeping most items in stock, we don't charge deposits to get on our schedule. We like the job to be paid for in full at the end of the completion. However, we know that every situation is unique. We know that not everyone has a credit card to put their projects on. We'll work with individuals and we can come up with a customized payment plan based on the individual's needs. So we've done that a number of times where they may give us 50% and then we can break up the balance in increments. And as Alex mentioned, prioritizing is a big thing that's going to separate us from any other company where we're going to be able to collaborate with the individual and say, well, this is the immediate needs where you need to get home now, and then let's look for funding elsewhere. So we talk about funding elsewhere. We are forever contacting and calling disability organizations, support groups, associations of all types. Our first question is, do you have funding for home modifications? Most oftentimes the answer is no. And we understand and we record every benefit that they do have for individuals to be able to offer that to those folks that qualify. But when the answer is yes, that's when we really sink our teeth in and really get our sponges at that point. We get as much information of how folks can access these funds, who they contact immediately to access these funds, how we can spread awareness about these funds, and how much of the funds are and what can they be used for. So that goes in our database, and then we forever are able to, once we hear a diagnosis, we're able to ring a bell and be able to direct them to a nice association support group that generally has funding. So that's another big thing that we love to do is collaborate with the organizations that have funding as well.
Well, just to let you know, RAMP is only a little over a year old, and that's exactly where we want to head. The more fundraising we do and the more people that donate and help us out, we put it right back into the community. We don't make any money. We are 100% volunteer organization, but we want to put it right back out into the community and help people access their homes, access businesses. We want to be the funding source eventually. Like I said, we're just over a year old, so give us a break, but we're getting there. And we've actually helped out a couple of businesses and a couple of places with smaller ramps and stuff like that from the funding that we already had. So if anybody out there wants to donate, there is a fundraiser going on for RAMP on our page. Alex, does Massachusetts have anything on that idea?
It does. So as Justin said, the first place I start a lot of times is those national organizations. They often have different chapters, and just because they support the same disability, they may not have the same financial capabilities. So when we first opened in Massachusetts, it was important to see the crossover, see which organizations also had funding. So that was a big place that we started. One segment that Justin did not get to, I know he was going there because he's so passionate about it, is long-term care policies. So that's another question we always want to look into. These are policies that are, designed to assist somebody, whether they need nursing care at home or if they were to move permanently into a long-term care facility. But a lot of times people have been paying for these policies for 20 years, 30 years, because ultimately they want to get you when you're at your healthiest point. That way you're paying over the longest period of time until such a time that you need those funds. However, what they don't often mention, or it may be in the small fine print, is that they do often have funding for home modifications. And the main reason being is that prevention is always going to be more affordable than the alternative. I think there's some research out there from OT scientists, occupational scientists, that says for every dollar that you put into prevention, it will come back eventually tenfold often. So, putting a couple dollars into fall prevention will ultimately save you thousands of dollars on hospital bills. And that's exactly why the long-term care policies want to provide funds for home modifications, because their worst nightmare is that point where you would have to move into a long-term care facility, because that's the biggest payout that they would have to do. So they know that prevention, money spent early, will in turn provide better results in the long run. Beyond that, unfortunately, the governor's
another thing that I hear. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm ready for you. You go ahead.
Now, another thing that I hear a lot is, that they don't want it to look like somebody of disability lives here, or it doesn't look pretty, the ramps or anything like that, which I completely debunk, because it is pretty that I can roll into my bathroom. It is pretty that I can roll into my house. So beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I fully, but the one thing that I also like about you guys is, if somebody was dismantling, unfortunately, if there's a passing or somebody moving or whatever, you guys take that equipment back and help somebody with lower income, and we're able to repurpose that. Am I correct on that?
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of times it's the unfortunate fact that the equipment, like you say, it may be emotional for folks if they may have now moved on to a nursing home or passed on, and loved ones may be emotional when they see it, and they don't want to see it anymore, and they don't want it, and it would be a matter of calling contractors to remove it and charge them to remove it, and then charge them for disposal fees, and then it end up in a dumpster somewhere, unfortunately. So we're happy to offer a buyback program. If the buyback time, which is 1 to 2 years, has passed, we're happy to remove it at no charge if we've installed it, and we're going to pay that forward. We're going to give a significant discount to individuals that can otherwise not afford it and don't qualify for the state insurance programs otherwise. So that individual is only getting charged for labor versus labor and the materials, which can add up. So we're happy to reuse anything. Our ramps, that's another beautiful part about easily removed. A lot of times folks have a temporary setback and they may be running up the stairs one day. So we're happy to remove the ramp and install it at someone else's house when it's no longer needed. Oftentimes folks move and they may have had 5 steps to enter and now they have 2 steps to enter. We can use a portion of that ramp at their new home and perhaps buy back the leftover portions.
I think that is so great, because it's repurposing the material, and it also adds value to your home. If you happen to want to leave it, it adds value to your home, and especially if you wanted to rent your home, you have a more open door of who you can rent to. You know what I mean? Because everybody's getting older. Everybody's going to need them at some point. I, in 10 minutes, ended up in a wheelchair, never expected. You never know when it's going to happen. So you can open the door to so many ideas. Do you get a lot of that, Alex, of people who want to either bring it back or repurpose it or change it up for something different?
I do. And I think it's important, like you said, people want their house to remain pretty. And while you and I and Justin, we all think ramps are pretty, it may not be the first thing that somebody wants to do for an addition to their house. So that's another thing. It's a little, stigma that we have to take into consideration. The best option to get into a house may be the front door, and we'll educate them on that. It takes you right to where you want to be. You have a sunken in living room if we go in the other side. And then ultimately they may tell us, yeah, I know what you mean, but this ramp needs to be in the garage, or this ramp needs to be in the backyard. And we'll come up with an option for that. We'll take it into consideration. It's just a matter of making sure that they're educated on our opinion as OTs, and then also know that we're there for them to make sure that they're as comfortable as possible with the process. Right. But as you said, a lot of this equipment does come back to us. I dream of a day that, we're so big that, say, a veteran was to donate a ramp back to us. I'd love that to be in the veteran pile of ramp. And if somebody no longer needs a ramp that has MS, I'd love for that to be in the multiple sclerosis pile of ramp. We want to help people, and that's the main point. So anything that we can take back, we're certainly going to repurpose. We do get a lot of questions about used materials, and as we can, we of course will put those back out into the community as well. They don't last very long, because these ramps are the 100% aluminum ramps last forever. And I think a lot of times,
Right.
Justin, you may agree that these ramps, like, they're getting sent to other members of families, and we never know
Yes.
about it. So we
Yeah.
may have a client who unfortunately passes away, and then the adult children are saying, well, my aunt also could benefit from this piece of equipment, and it's just a matter of uninstalling and reinstalling it. So I think that our equipment is probably staying in the community even longer than we know about, because we don't get a ton of calls about donated equipment or buybacks. But general course of disease and prognosis, that's my guess, is that there is a lot of ramp that's being repurposed in the community at no cost to people, which is great. And that's why we want to use quality products and make sure that it can last a lifetime.
And I love all of the portable ramps for all of those businesses that have that inevitable one step that I
The one
just gotta
curb.
love. They're like, it's only one step. I'm like, okay, when you can walk through that wall, when you can walk through that wall, I will attempt the one step. It's what I mean. It's that truly is an honest comparison. And if you're carrying me in, are you going to stop during a fire or a shooting or something to carry me out? You know what I mean?
Come
Like,
get me.
these are things that people don't think about. So, and that's another thing that, RAMP really wants to get involved in with you guys, is helping businesses take away that one step and then moving up more and more. So those ramps could be repurposed to small businesses who don't get tax breaks right now, that we're working on a bill for that. We got 3 in the loop that we're waiting. But, trying to get more and more people to be accessible, more and more people to be affordably accessible, because, if a business becomes affordably accessible, we're fighting to give you our money. If you become accessible, you get our money. And it's not just me, it's my family and my friends. So basically, you put in a ramp and I add to your bottom line. You make out more than I do. I get to get in and make memories. You get our money. So let's make it happen. I don't understand why people do not get this concept. The other concept that I don't think a lot of people get is they think once they become accessible that we're a crew, that I'm all of a sudden going to show up with 10, 15 people all in wheelchairs because we all hang together. That is not the case. And there are so many people who can't do stairs, who can't go upstairs, who aren't in wheelchairs that you don't even know about. Talk about some of that, like some of the invisible disabilities that still need these features that people just don't realize or understand. Justin?
Yes, a lot of times, it's one of the main things we're asking and talking about and observing in the home is type of adaptive equipment. Do you use a walk? I generally say, what's your favorite vehicle for transportation? Is it a cane? Is it a walker? Is it a front-wheeled walker? Is it a wheelchair, transport wheelchair, power wheelchair? Oftentimes, it's no equipment. And folks can walk around. They may participate in silver sneakers. They may walk a mile in the community throughout the day, but they also may have 15, 16 stairs up to their only bathroom with a shower and to their bedroom. And they can't climb those stairs. They may have COPD and not rely on oxygen, so you don't necessarily see their oxygen everywhere, but they have COPD. Or they have diabetes and they have sensation issues where they can't feel the floor underneath them, the steps underneath them, and ambulating the stairs is tremendously dangerous. Cognitive issues like Alzheimer's, different forms of dementia, you can't see that. There's no assistive devices necessarily. Oftentimes there are, but oftentimes there's not. So these individuals may not have realized a stair lift existed and are trying to seek massive renovations on their first floor to be able to stay in their home. Or they're checking out rooms in the assisted livings, the closest assisted livings. And then we come along And we're able to offer for about 2 weeks stay in your average assisted living in Rhode Island, at least, maybe 1 week in Massachusetts, a stair lift that gets them access to this space
Right.
that they need to live in the home. Now, we all know in healthcare that there's a lot of variables that bring folks to an assisted living, and a lot of our partners are assisted living, employees and facilities, and we think that's incredibly important for a lot of individuals. But those individuals that climbing those stairs is their only thing keeping them from staying in their house, it's a game changer, and that stair lift can be very emotional for them to stay in their home that they may have raised their kids in. So things like that, the cognition, COPD, you may not have a device, but you may not be able to safely walk up and down the stairs either.
Yeah.
We've
I
had
mean,
a
it's
lot of
just as
folks get,
simple. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It's just as simple too as somebody has a slip disc in their back or they have really bad hips and knees. It may not even be like a full disability that people don't understand. Knee problems, hip problems, back problems. You guys they could all benefit from not having to lift their leg and to do the stairs. It could add so much more quality to their life. Even like for businesses, baby carriages, knee scooters. If someone's coming into your place and you have stairs and they're trying to navigate a walker upstairs, if that person falls, you're responsible for that insurance. Wouldn't you rather go up a ramp?
Yep.
Alex, what are some of the things that you see or hear that most common people wouldn't think about?
As far as businesses,
Businesses or
Justin touched
homes
on a lot
or whichever.
I think what's important to remember, especially where we're working in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, is just the age of the housing stock. I don't know the exact number, but I know we're in the top 5 of the oldest housing stock in America. And when these older houses are being built, and just because of where we're located, all of these houses and buildings are all on foundations that are ultimately leaving you with 3, 4, 5 steps to get in. I have a lot of friends who are OTs around the country, and some of my friends who practice in Florida, they say, you guys are needed in Florida. There's old people everywhere. Well, in Florida, every house is built on a slab. They don't have basements, and a lot of times they're single level living, and that's all by design. But the way that houses are built and the age of the housing stock here, we're stuck with a lot of doorways and businesses and homes that are all 28 inches. We're stuck with galley kitchens that are hard to navigate around. You can't possibly turn a wheelchair in those. We're stuck with clawfoot tubs in bathrooms and rental units and things like that. So it's just a matter of retrofitting these buildings to be more accessible, and B, ensure that any new construction is done correctly, that it's done to ADA specs, and as well as with universal design. It's not made to look handicap accessible. That's one of the things that I really loved in some of the specialty courses we take. Justin and I were both executive certified home modification providers, and we also hold a designation as a certified aging in place specialist. A lot of initials there, but essentially in those classes, they really focus on universal design and how to take, not only older buildings retrofit, but also design new buildings so that everything is accessible and you would never know it. And I think that's really where we need to go. And that's what's going to make,
there is,
you said.
Yeah. There is a new bill out that Langevin talks about that I was blessed to be part of, is when they build like a townhouse or a condo, one side has to be floor level to be accessible and stuff like that. So that's another bill that we're going to be fighting for down the road. And I've been working with a lot of contractors, and like just simply like the Habitat house that we're using. I don't understand when somebody's building a deck, they wouldn't build a deck flush to the house. They leave a step. I don't understand that. Contractors, if you ask them, they don't even know why they do it. It's just the way we do it. I said, well, then you need to step up and change the way you do it and make it flush with the house, because that would take one step away from so many people. So I'm working with contractors prior, and they're going, oh, that would make sense. What's an extra couple of inches to raise the deck than it is to have somebody retrofit it? So I know you guys, work a lot with me. Or I call you guys all the time. Hey, how does this work? And how can I talk to them to change their mind on this? So you guys are fabulous on that. And I can't talk you guys up enough because you're involved with everything that I'm involved with. And we just kind of mesh together. Tell everybody, Justin, one thing that you don't think most people think about that you would like them to know.
That it's mainly the stigma, and I'm staring at a few grab bars here that we have in the showroom, and that accessibility is for everybody. It's inclusion. When we started the company, my mother was 60 years old and had zero mobility issues. And within the first several months, I said, God, I better get her grab bars in her shower, because if she fell, I'd be the biggest hypocrite on the planet without having her set up with, and here's the key words, comfort and convenience. It's just making things easier. We're not trying to knock down your walls and put you in a hotel for a month while we renovate your home. We're trying to do simple things to maximize mobility. A lot of folks built their home with their bare hands, 40, 50, we've heard 60 years prior to us waltzing in and having all these ideas. Last thing they want is some hotshot telling them what walls they're going to knock down and how they're going to redo everything that they hold dear to their heart. So just the fact that it's really simple on our end, and we want to maintain and preserve the heritage and the traditions of the home by just adding things that make it look like it's supposed to be there, and things that just make things easier for folks. And on those jobs, we're sure to mark the assessment form supervisor, because we want that individual that built that home 50 years ago, we want them to be watching every move that our technicians make to make sure that they're doing what they would want to do to their home.
Right.
And we show them all the fancy new hardware that we utilize and all the how in depth the stair lift mechanism are on the inside. And these folks absolutely love it. They absolutely love seeing all the equipment and how it's installed. And it's kind of a 180. A lot of folks do. A lot of folks are hesitant at first. A loved one, a healthcare provider will encourage them. They may have encouraged them and said the exact same things that Alex and I said to them, and then they just could not get their heads around it until an innocent third party explained it in a different way. And then they're incredibly receptive, and then they're not moving out of their home. And they come back and they say, wow, it really all was pretty simple when it comes down to it. So we like to we know that when most people call us, it's like this. And then we like to just, by the time we leave, make it simple and give them all their options. So the comfort and convenience of the equipment and working with us, I think, is the two common misconceptions that we'd love to just make clear, that it's very simple, easy process. And the equipment, we make it look like it's supposed to be there, and it's for comfort and convenience.
And it's beautiful because when I went to the showroom and I saw all of the fancy grab bars and everything, I'm like, oh my God, they're gorgeous. Like they would be absolutely beautiful in any bathroom or in. They're all designed and they're all beautiful. So they're wonderful. Alex, what is the one thing that you would like to leave somebody with, or something that they don't normally ask because they're not involved?
I would say, the majority of the time we're getting called into a house because it's what somebody what somebody needs to do. They need to get in the shower. They need to get in the front door. I'd say to take an extra second and think about what you want to do as well. Because, as OTs, we know a lot of the equipment. We know a lot of the sequencing that can make your life easier. But what we also know is that we don't know everything, but we're really good at going and finding the answers. So we get a lot of calls on people who say, it seems like an impossible situation. This is what we need to do, and this is what we want to do. And when we go in, we may not leave the house with an answer, but I'll never understand how there can be an answer for everything on the internet. I'm baffled by how many mobility and accessibility products there are that we don't even know about. So that's almost fun for me, is going, talking with other professionals and finding this equipment that we didn't know existed, find how it can benefit this client. And then in turn, we can add that to our product list and our menu of everything that we can offer people. One that strikes my mind is we had a client who in a large tenement house, and he wasn't able to do any renovations as far as a ramp or a platform lift. There was a bunch of different issues as to why, and we found out that there exists a wheelchair that can climb the stairs. That was something I didn't know existed 2 years ago, and we were able to help him get this wheelchair that he was able to transfer into the wheelchair. The chair has a set of tracks that takes him down his 5 or 6 steps onto the sidewalk. And once he's on the sidewalk, he's able to be picked up by public transportation that is handicap accessible. It was just a matter of getting him from the house, which was 5, 6 steps up, onto the sidewalk. That's all we had to do. But our normal options of stair lift, ramp, and vertical platform lift weren't an option. So when I left the house, I didn't know what to say. It was just a matter of doing some research. And as always, I was baffled that there is an answer on the internet. And hopefully one day we think of one of these amazing products and we can invent it and build it and find the need.
Right.
But most often what I'm finding is that it already exists. So it's important just to tell us, don't shy away from it, even if it seems crazy, because crazy is fine with us. If there's something that you want to do, we'll do our best to find a way to do it.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, one of my favorite things about you guys is like when you came out to my house and I showed you the different ways that I get around, because I'm more agile and I just find my own way. You saw how I did it and you adapted to me. So you saw how I did things, and then you said, well, if you're going to do it that way, then we can do this, 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 and this to make that way even a little bit more easy. You didn't tell me you should do it this way. You took what I can do and you made it more adaptable to me. And I know that goes a long way with a lot of people. You're not changing me, you're helping me gather. I just love that about you guys. I love everything about you guys because, like I said, we work so well together, and we have the same missions all the time. So all I have to leave everybody with is make sure you're calling your senators and stuff and get this Home Modification Act passed. Donate to RAMP to make sure that if this doesn't, for some reason, goes away down the road, RAMP will be able to fill in the gaps and help people and keep people in their home. If you have equipment that you want to resell or give back, call Justin and Alex. They will come out and they will take it and they will help you repurpose it for somebody who needs it if you no longer do. There's just so much going on, and I thank you guys so much. But the one thing I want to say that I haven't mentioned is you guys are a huge supporter of our Red Bag Initiative. You guys give out one to every client that you have. So I thank you for all of that. They are a huge supporter of our Red Bag, and that's, if anybody doesn't know by now, which I don't know how you can't, it's keeping all of your medical information on you at all times, non-tech based. So anybody, it's basically your medical information for dummies is what I would like to say. But so if you need another place to get them, make sure you're calling Justin and Alex and Mike. Mike is phenomenal. I've worked with Mike a lot. He is absolutely just as phenomenal. Everybody on your team and on your staff is truly incredible. So thank you for everything that you do. And thank you for being a part of this. And thank you for being tonight. And I hope everybody shares this out and they reach out to one of the three of us and we could just make the entire world accessible, because that would be my goal, is to make the entire world accessible to everybody, and then nobody ever has to worry about it. Any leaving comments you would like to tell anybody? Justin, any final quick words?
Oh, I just want to thank you, Tina, for all the efforts that you do in the community. You're an incredible inspiration to us, to our entire team, to the entire healthcare community. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you do and for having this podcast and for inviting us on to join.
Well, this isn't a one and done. You guys will be back. Alex, any final words you would like to leave everybody with?
Yeah, I want to reiterate, thank you for having us. And what we really love about what you do is your passion on the community. You know, we are Oakley Home Access, and most of the time we are in the home. So it's so great to know that there's another organization out there that's, you know, we help them get in and out of the home, but what are they doing when they leave that home? And I think it's great what
Right.
you do to make sure that the rest of the community is accessible, and that they are able to have their highest quality of life.
Yeah. Well, one thing I know I tell Justin all the time is because I actually use the equipment, more people are going to believe my commentation and my, advice. Not that you guys don't know way more than I do, but because I use it, I get to bring the people in, and you guys get to take them home. So you know what I mean? That's where we're the little people that work together. I bring them in, and you take them the rest of the way, and it's great. So thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining me tonight. We will be sharing this out, and please come back anytime. You guys are more than welcome on the show anytime, and we'll come back and fill everybody in on all of the bills that are going on out there. So thank you very much, and have a great night.
Thank you. Have a great
Good
night,
night.
Tina.